Hi, I'm Mrs. Timmons, and today I'm going to talk to you about citing images in NoodleTools. First, you need to think about where you've gotten your image. It could be a database. It could be a website like Wikipedia. They have a lot of great images. Or it could be another website like a museum website. The thing to keep in mind when you're not using a database is that any website you use has to pass the same criteria for images as it would for any other kind of information. It has to be a reliable, academic, credible, trustworthy website. It can't be a blog. It can't be a Pinterest page where you don't know who the author is and you're not given any information about your image. But for example, a museum like the Met that has a whole bunch of information about an image and a picture of the image, that would be a trustworthy website, and you could use an image from a website like this. So let's say I wanted to cite this. In NoodleTools, you're also going to need to think about whether you're citing a photograph or an object, a work of art. In this case, what I'm looking at online is a picture of the work of art. And the citation doesn't care very much who took this picture. It just cares about the work of art itself. It wants to know who created this work of art and when it was created. So right here I can see that this sculpture has a statue. There's a year range when the sculpture was created, and I have the name of the sculptor right here, all at the Met's website. So if I go into NoodleTools, again, the first thing I thought about, did I get it from a database? Did I get it from a website? Even did I get it from a book? You can scan an image out of a book. In this case, I happen to use a website, and you've got some choices. Okay, so you can pick either a photo or illustration. This would be if you were citing the photo itself. So if it was a classic black and white photograph of, say, Martin Luther King Jr. and his I Have a Dream speech, that's a classic photograph. You are citing the photo itself. That is the artwork, the object that you are citing. But if you're citing something that was created online, that was born digital, such as graphic design or maybe an advertisement, or any photo created fairly recently, like a photo of the current president, that would be more likely to be a photo or image born digital. But because what I'm most interested in is the sculpture, the object that was depicted, I'm going to go down here to work of visual art. That is what I'm going to want to cite from my website. Now what you'll see is there are very, very few fields to fill out. So I've got the name of my website and the publisher, the URL. And then for the artwork, there are only a few fields. So I had my sculptor's name, and I'm actually going to change this to sculpture. I found my sculptor's name on the website. I have the name of the sculpture, and I had the date range. That's it. That's all you have to fill out. You could even, if you went to a museum and you viewed the artwork live, you could even click on the Viewed tab. In this case, there's no URL. It's not something you saw on a website. You actually went down to the Frist and you viewed the sculpture down there. But in most cases, it's going to come from a website or a database. So let's look at another example. This one had all sorts of good information. Let's look at this picture of King Tut from Wikipedia. Anything in a Wikipedia article, if you click on it, you will get more information about the image itself. So here the person who posted this picture is telling us where they found this artwork. It's in the Egyptian Museum in Cairo. It's describing the artwork. It's giving the date it was taken. There's a More Details button. If you click the More Details button, it actually will take you to the Wikimedia Commons webpage. That's where you want to be when you're working with an image. You might find it on Wikipedia, but you want to click on it until you get all the way to the Wikimedia Commons. That is where you actually have the buttons to download the image, and you have all of the licensing information to see whether or not you're able to repost the image. So I am able to find out that the name of the person who took this photograph is Roland Unger, but Again, the citation doesn't necessarily care who the photographer is if the object you're dealing with is not a photograph. It's more interested in the actual artwork itself. So in this case, I'm still in a website. The name would be Wikimedia Commons. I've got the URL. I'm probably going to have to leave the artist field blank because I don't have any information about who originally sculpted the funerary mask. Probably could even leave this as a sculpture. If there's not a formal title, remember this little button that says Untitled. Just check that and you can enter in any sort of description. Again, I probably don't know the exact year it was created, so there are very few pieces of information in this citation, but that's okay, it's still correct. If you got your citation from a database, so for example, here is Britannica School. Again, this is telling me the name of the person who took the picture, Lee Bolton. I can click on the picture to get a little bit more information. But the only difference is that I would just be in my database tab, the name of the database, Encyclopedia Britannica, the URL. Again, no artist, no original sculptor, and I don't have to tell them the name of the photographer because again, I'm citing an artwork, not a photograph, okay? By contrast, what if you really did want to cite a photograph? So here's Britannica Image Quest, and I found a picture of the Valley of the Kings, where many of these Egyptian tombs were discovered. And when I click on the image and I get more information, I have the name of the photographer, Harry Burton, and the year the photograph was taken, 1925. In this case, I'm not interested in citing an object. I'm interested in citing the photograph itself. So in this case, the artist that I need to credit is the photographer, Harry Burton, and there is the year 1925. So I would switch to photo or illustration. It's not born digital, it's an old black and white image. I have my name of my database, my URL, and again, Harry Burton is the photographer. So in the case of a photograph, the photographer is your artist. Valley of the Kings. Now, a quick word of advice about, and there's my copyright here, about getting links from some of these database sites. If I found it here, but I just copied the URL out of the top, this URL is to the entire search screen with 1,843 images. Do not use that URL. Notice what happens when you actually click on the image. The URL changes, it gets much more specific, or you can go down here to the Cite button and get this direct image down, this direct URL down here. Please be sure, especially from Britannica Image Quest, that you use the direct URL that takes you to the image, not to your search screen. One more example. I'm in ABC Clio and I have found a CAT scan of a skull. Okay, again, this is not an object, this is a photograph, so I am indeed citing the photograph and I would like to credit the photographer. I don't have a person's name, but I have a company basically that has the credit for taking this picture. So what you would do to cite that is instead of using a first and last name, in NoodleTools, the last name field can also be used as a group name. So I can paste the name of the studio that has the credit for that image, and I can put that in last name or group. So keep that in mind. Sometimes you'll have a studio name rather than an individual's name, but you can still cite that for a photograph. My last example is a graphic image. Pixabay is a great website to get free images, and here is one created by a graphic designer. So in this case, I can find out the designer's name right here, Peter Lomas. I can click on it. There's his name. So in this case, I'm not citing an art object. I am citing the actual born digital image. So when I go to Born Digital, again, I can say website is Pixabay, have my URL that goes directly to the image right here, find the dates, and then I can credit the graphic designer who created this image, Peter Lomas, right here. And I'm just going to say it's a digital image. Okay, so those are the differences between citing a sculpture or painting, which would be a work of visual art, in which case you would want to cite the sculptor or painter, versus a historical photograph where you might cite the photographer, or a digital image where you might cite the graphic designer. There's one more option when you have a book. Okay, so when it's a photo or illustration and you have found it in a book, then you can actually cite it as you would cite a book. So here we have a book citation, and I'm changing from chapter or section to work of visual art. So I found a picture in a book and I've scanned it. It wants the same pieces of information. What is it a picture of? Do we know the name of the sculptor, or if it's a photograph, the photographer? Do we know the year it was created? All those good things. But then underneath that, you're going to add to your citation all the normal book information: the publisher, the title of the book, the author, editor of the book, and there is a place for you to put the page numbers that you found this artwork in the book. So those are all the different varieties of types of images, locations, and pieces of information that you might need to cite an image. I hope that was helpful. Please let me know if you have any further questions. Thank you.